Christian parenting.
Continuing our Family on Mission series today, you're going to hear from a young man who I had the pleasure of being the youth pastor of for 7 years, and now I just consider him a dear friend who's on the cusp of marriage, about his experience living within a household that lived on mission together. You're going to enjoy my conversation with Davis Price.
We spent a lot of time in the church, and my parents had high expectations of us, of like, you're capable of helping out in whatever way you can, which again I appreciated, because it was never like, you stay here, we're going to go do ministry, and you can't be involved because you're a little kid. So they did a really good job about like including us in whatever they could include us in. And sometimes that was like, you're going to pull weeds while I'm in this meeting. Wasn't super big fan of it then, but it's been cool. My parents have done really well about including us in any kind of industry.
Hey, my name is Jay Holland, and this is Let's Parent on Purpose. It's a podcast to help you thrive and not just survive your parenting years. Each week, I'll bring you an insight or an interview that will help strengthen your marriage, your family, or your personal walk with Jesus. And if you find it helpful, I encourage you to subscribe, share it with your friends, and you're welcome to go to letsparentonpurpose.com to find all kinds of past articles, issues, and resources to help your family. My intent with this Family on Mission series that we are doing throughout the summer is to just give you multiple snapshots of what it looks like to have a family that's on mission. And again, your family's not going to look like every single one of these. You're not going to relate to all of the things. But I think just the more pictures that we can paint of real families, actual families, in different ways that God has put them on mission, the more that you can be inspired in your own life and in your own heart of how it's not just your mission for the Lord and everybody seeking and finding their own way in how they're going to serve Jesus, but how God has uniquely equipped your family to serve together. You're going to really enjoy my conversation today with Davis Price. Davis is the youngest biological son of my senior pastor, Matt Price, and his wife, Jenny, and now he is a middle child as they adopted two young ones when Davis was about 8 years old. So I've known Davis for 13 years, just delighted to watch him grow up. He was one of the most enjoyable students to have through youth group. He is now graduated from Florida State University with his degree in accounting, which perfectly prepared him to then take a job to begin a life in ministry. We are recording this just a couple of weeks before I get to be the pastor who officiates Davis and his new bride Lindsey's wedding. And by the time this comes out, you can pray for Davis, because I think literally the honeymoon will be over, but probably by about 7 days. So what I want you to hear as we talk is, first off, just the experience of what it was like as a pastor's kid, but beyond a pastor's kid, just what it was like to have different formative experiences where his family brought their children on mission with them. And sometimes that was for big spectacular things like going on a mission trip together, using their home for foster and adoption, but also just kind of the regular recurring way that Matt and Jenny were able to structure their family, where life wasn't about their kids, but their kids were very much a vital part of the mission that God gave them. And rather than growing up resenting it and feeling like he missed out, Davis has had a very rich life that has now prepared him to do the same with his new bride. If you enjoy this, I just hope that you get encouraged by it. If you're a pastor, I know some pastors listen to this, have hope that all pastors' kids, it shouldn't be the norm that pastors' kids grow up resentful. But here's a great example of a way to do ministry, to live your life on mission, but also make your kids a vital part of it. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, share it with somebody that you know needs to hear it. And let's just continue to pray and seek the Lord on how each of our families can be on mission. So here's my conversation with Davis. Davis, man, it's good to get to bring you back on the podcast. You are actually one of the very first guests I ever had. Did you know that?
I did not know that until 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, right before we started recording, we looked up because I was like, I think you've been on here before. So,
Yeah, long time ago.
back when you had all that wisdom as like a high school junior, maybe senior in your life.
I was way smarter back then.
And so this is a pretty special time because we're recording this and you are just a lowly bachelor. But by the time it comes out, you will be a happily married man. So congratulations.
Thanks, Jay.
Tell us,
I'm very excited.
yeah, tell us about your wife.
My wife, not at this point, but at the time of
tell us about your future wife.
My fiance Lindsey, I met her at FSU. We were both involved in crew, and it's really funny.
So crew is Campus Crusade.
Yeah, Campus Crusade. So we met late my freshman year. She actually lived with a couple of my close friends who were females who were also involved in crew. And we just kind of became friends. And to be honest, she really annoyed me. And I think I annoyed her as well. And we were never really interested in her or in each other. I thought she was cute, obviously, because she's beautiful. But the Lord was really cool. We had a friend pass away late my junior year, and we connected at the funeral. And I was like, "Whoa, Lindsey! I'm looking at Lindsey in a different way than I ever have." So we started talking during the summer, started dating beginning of my senior year, and within a month, I knew that she was the woman I was supposed to marry. And she's awesome. She's so beautiful and so much more theologically knowledgeable than I am. She's actually the reason that I'm, God's the reason, but the Lord has used her indirectly to turn me from accounting to youth ministry. So,
man, that's a good turn right there.
Yeah. I'm very thankful to be actually excited about post-grad work. So it's good. I'm very thankful.
I just can't imagine being excited about accounting. So
yeah, I thought that eventually the excitement would come to me, but with a month left in my senior year, I was like, wow, I'm still dreading this. So,
all right. So if you are a parent in the Orlando area looking for a church, Davis, where should they go?
Orangewood. It's a Presbyterian Church of America. And you should come out and let me influence your children, I guess.
So we're in this Family on Mission series, and the reason I wanted to talk to you is you're a pastor's kid, and you grew up in a large family. You had 3 biological and then 2 adopted kids. But of all the families I know, your family has lived on mission in so many different ways, but in so many ways that directly affected you as a child. So I just kind of want to walk through what that life experience was like for a few reasons. One is just as an encouragement to parents listening, but also I think sometimes we feel like our kids are missing out on our attention and time in life when we pull other people into our lives. So we're just going to kind of talk through that. So what are some of your earliest experiences that you can remember where maybe it kind of registered, like my family's about ministry, or we do ministry together?
I think one of the first big experiences that I got to be a part of was I got to go on an international mission trip when I was 6 or 7 years old to Eleuthera with my family, which is, I know that that's definitely not something that most, kids who are fresh out of kindergarten get to be a part of. So I remember going and being a part of the VBS and, helping in quotations with the whatever construction was going on. And that was a really cool one because I was like, yeah, no, other kids don't get to do this. But I would say Fostering Glory in Dalton was one of the big ones that I was like, oh, my parents are not just about doing what's comfortable and middle class, and they want to do hard things for the kingdom. So that was definitely a big one. When I was about 8 when they came and lived with us. So,
so the first time I met you, and you probably won't remember this because it would have been completely unremarkable for you. I didn't live here yet. I was down here visiting at the time my friend Brent, and we had to swing by the church on Saturday for something. I don't know what it was for, and I met your dad. And I met his 2 boys because every Saturday for man, it feels like maybe a decade of your
Yeah,
life.
I think that was
You
my
got to do
entire
something.
childhood.
You got to do something special with your dad. What special thing did you do, Davis?
We every Saturday we set up the chairs in the sanctuary. So this was before the new building, and we used to roll out strings with little dots on them and line up ropes. It was very meticulous, but my dad generally got us Wendy's or Chick-fil-A afterwards. Actually, I think that was before the days of Chick-fil-A.
There was no
Yeah,
Chick-fil-A, I
no
don't think.
Chick-fil-A. Wow, that's crazy.
Must have been Wendy's.
Yeah, it was probably Wendy's, Frosties, or something. But yeah, that was something that it was just the norm. Was like I also, I spent. My dad took me out of pre-K, and I spent most of the days following around the janitor at the church, Bill Pruitt, helping him with whatever what he was doing, and also manipulating him to give me his cookies from lunch.
So church janitor was your first job, and your pay was Mr. Bill's cookies. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's kind of neat just hearing these, like, there's pretty different marked experiences here. One is like the event kind of thing with this international mission trip. Then there's the kind of regular grind of just coming to the church and doing manual labor. And I know you may have started with chairs, but your dad is a very hard manual labor kind of guy. So you were pulled in on stuff probably a lot when you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Maybe most of the time when you didn't want to.
I spent a lot of time when I was younger, just like, I mean, outside of the chairs thing, like whether punitive or not, like whether punitive or my dad just thought you needed something to do. I mean, we spent a lot of time like pulling weeds either at our house or, at the church. My dad's the kind of guy who's like, happy Labor Day, time to labor. And you get up and go make the house look nice. But it's been cool because like I really appreciate that stuff now, just in terms of like the hard work sense of like I know people who don't know how to pull weeds, and it's like, did you not do anything?
Did you not have Labor Day?
Yeah, no Labor Day. You actually got to just sleep in.
So you had all of those things, but as well, you're talking about the bringing in your twins initially for fostering. How old were you?
I was 8.
8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you remember any kind of family conversations before that happened?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. We were just talking about we were putting up chairs on a Saturday, and I think it might have just been Will and I, but my dad basically just said, "Hey guys, we're thinking about maybe bringing a couple of kids to come live with us that need a family. How does that make you guys feel?" And I was like, "It feels good to me. I mean, brother and sister. That sounds." And I wasn't really thinking in the permanent sense, but that's how it ended up being. But yeah, there was no part of me that was like, "Oh, this is really gonna take away from my snuggle time with mom." Yeah, it was funny. It was just kind of a conversation while we were setting up chairs, and then a few days later they were at the house. So it was.
Now, you didn't, as a 8-year-old, contemplate the level of sacrifice it was going to take from you, but it did.
Yeah.
Right. It was pretty significant. What are, obviously protecting some confidentialities of everybody's struggles, but what were some of the things that you remember having to wrestle through being one of the bio siblings as you have this massive change that happened in your family?
It was definitely less, one-on-one time with my parents. And the house was just more chaotic, much more chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
We're all pretty good behaved kids. And so it was definitely like a dynamic change, of, there's like crazy things happening at, maybe any moment in the day. And,
Mm-hmm.
People are getting sent home from school for doing things that, I would never think to do. But I think that like largely it was just kind of like my parents were really good about talking to us about like, hey, like if you need time, just let us know. And I think we were all like as bio kids, like just we knew, at a deep level like why they were doing it, and we were willing to make the sacrifice whether we had thought through it in that like straightforward of a way or not. Like we were just like, our parents are doing this for a good reason, and it honestly made the house more exciting and more fun. And I think like one of my struggles like up until probably like early high school was like I saw myself as a parent, and a lot of that is because I did help my parents like get a break from Glory and Dalton, and like we spent basically every day during the summers, playing ball tag and or in the pool kind of thing. And so I spent probably a lot of time with them, and the authority that my parents gave me, I saw as like more than it was supposed to be, and was probably like unkind to them on a regular basis, because they were little kids and I was an impatient adolescent. So, but yeah, that was probably the biggest like kind of change was like I now had a small authority, which I had previously had none of because I was the youngest in a family of 5.
Power play.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you went from the youngest to middle child, and that's really traumatic for people too.
Yeah. I mean, I love being I love being like my mom always says I was the cuddliest of the 3 kids. When I was 8, I was kind of like on the brink of getting over that completely kind of thing. Not that that's a bad thing that you need to get over.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to cuddle your mom. But I think like kind of being forced into that middle child position was like I didn't really know how to act. And I remember several times like my older siblings like correcting me and me being like just super angry, like how like who do you think you are? And it's like their older siblings, like they want what's best for you for the most part.
Now, in addition to all of that, I remember some periods where you guys, your home has been a bit of an open home, including the housing over time of a couple different guys who were down on their luck, is like a really benevolent way of saying it, but basically semi-homeless. And your parents gave them a place to stay for a long period of time, which affected you and what are some impressions that you remember from those experiences?
I mean, there are so many stories that I could tell, but I always, we were literally on the phone with a guy yesterday who lived with us for about 6-7 years. And my dad kind of transformed our outside storage shed into a livable little kind of Airbnb.
It's like a tiny home.
Yeah, exactly. And
by the way, like somebody hearing that, it could sound very offensive, my outside shed. You've just never met Matt Price, if so, because Matt's shed is probably better built than your home.
Yeah, no, there's air conditioning, laminate flooring. I mean, it's very nice for sure. I mean, it was probably about the same size as one of our bedrooms, maybe a little bit smaller, but yeah, I mean, he came in and used the restroom and ate our food, and it wasn't like a you stay outside kind of thing. I mean, I spent so much time during the summer like working with this guy, fishing with him, and I mean, I really appreciated that relationship a lot, and I think that there were times when my parents were probably frustrated at the apparent lack of financial progress that was being made, but like for me, it was, and for them, I guess it was kind of like a free babysitting service, where I would just go hang out all day with this guy, and I mean it was really fun, like, and just the stories he would tell, and he's a funny guy, and I remember like, my dad has a video on his phone of like when I was in 7th grade playing one-on-one basketball with this guy, and he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and it's fun, that's the kind of stuff that makes your childhood really memorable. But yeah, there were definitely like frustrating times, and but he was really great about like getting plugged into the church, and there were also other times, where my parents would help people, and people would try to like take advantage of it, and continue kind of neglecting the relationships with kids and kind of leaving that on on my parents, and that was really hard to watch because it's like somebody's like literally like giving you a free place to live and like food to eat, and you're just like squandering it for your own gain. So that was really difficult to watch, and I think if anything, all of the compounding themes have helped me to stay away from drugs, if nothing else, because I don't really know how effective Dare is.
But bringing somebody into your
Yeah,
living room.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's so one of the just oftentimes we have this stigma of pastors' kids where they're just neglected because of the church. And it seems like your parents just really found ways to bring you guys in to what they're doing, to where they certainly had their own niche ministries and stuff like that. And obviously there's plenty that you weren't involved in. But did you wrestle through resentment of being a pastor's kid at any of those times? And
I think most of my resentment from being a pastor's kid was not from any expectations like from my parents, but like from small group leaders, like in my like elementary years of
Mhm.
like nobody brought their Bible. I'm included in nobody, but I am the only one called out. It's like, Davis, you're the pastor's kid. You didn't bring your Bible. And it's like, oh, that's kind of like, I mean, it sounds like really stupid, but like when you're, you know, when you're in fourth grade, it's like, why am I at a different,
Yeah, I'd be
why
like,
there?
I also forgot to bring my helmet to the football game this Saturday. So
Exactly.
I just
Yeah.
forget things.
I'm in fourth grade.
Yeah.
I'm not that smart. But I think that, when I think about like people who resent the fact that they're pastors' kids, I think that a lot of that stems just from the fact of like maybe at home is not as like peaceful or like as healthy as it should be. And I think my parents have done a really good job of like striking a balance of like, yeah, we're gone a lot, but it does like we love each other, and like, my parents put each other first before us. And I think that like the tone in our home has been what's kept me from having some, deep resentments of like, oh, my dad cares more about the church than he does my mom, or he cares more about the church than he does me. It'd be easy to write that story if my dad was an awful dad,
Mm.
but he's a great dad, and I'm extremely thankful for the relationship I have with him. People are gonna, like the stuff at home is what like shapes, memories of like, and we spent a lot of time in the church, and my parents had high expectations of us of like you're capable of helping out in whatever way you can, which again I appreciated because it was never like you stay here, we're gonna go do ministry, and you can't be involved because
Yeah.
you're a little kid. So they did a really good job about like including us in whatever they could include us in, and sometimes that was like you're gonna pull weeds while I'm in this meeting. Okay, I didn't wasn't super big fan of it then, but it's been cool. My parents have done really good
Mhm.
about done really well about including us in any kind of industry.
Let's Parent on Purpose has always been about equipping moms and dads to build thriving families centered around the hope of the gospel. If you regularly listen to this podcast, you're actually among a community of parents that span 68 countries, including many in the 1040 window, where there are few churches and limited access to the gospel. As the amount of content I produce over the years grows, so do the cost of maintaining, storing, and producing all of the different details that help make this show helpful. If God has put you in a place where you might be able to help a little bit and support this work, would you please consider going to letsparentonpurpose.com/support and either giving a one-time gift or becoming a regular supporter through Patreon? If you're not in a good place to support the show, that's fine. I pray you continue listening, growing, and sharing it with others. That's it. No hard push. Just a simple request that if you're able to and would like to, help share the load of the show at www.letsparentonpurpose.com/support. I think one of the challenges that a lot of times parents have, whether they're pastors or not, is when you are passionate about the Lord and you are on mission. There's a sense in which it's kind of natural for your kids to go with the flow of that faith. And I think even in our youth ministry here, it's easy to to kind of go with the flow of like if people are at least appearing to live for the Lord and do the right things and go on mission trips and be kind to people. That's the natural environment, and that's a really wonderful one. But the challenge sometimes can be taking personal ownership of that. And so I'm just curious: are there some seminal moments that you look at where it's like, you know what, these are ways that I know that I began to really own my faith and own my mission separate from just being kind of in the natural stream of what mom and dad are doing.
Yeah. I was like baptized when I was, I think, 5 or 6.
Mhm.
And so like at that time I had like, made my faith my own, made the personal decision. But I think in terms of like deciding like, okay, like this is this is actually going to be like something that's like truly important to me. I think that there were like a lot of like, they felt really big at the time. But I would just say like minor moments of like God is really big, and like I want this to be, the focus of my life. I think like the first one I think of is when I was 12 at Camp Living Stones, and like kind of it clicking of like, oh, that this is like what God's love feels like.
Mm.
And that kind of like wrecking me. And that was the first time in my life that I was like, oh, okay, God, like you can do what you want with me. Which of course lasted, all of a week because you're at Camp Living Stones. But I think that was like the first time that I had, because I didn't really grow up like my parents never badgered us to read our Bibles, and so I didn't because I was like, playing outside, doing
Mhm.
whatever. That was like the first time that I was like, okay, I'm gonna open the Bible and see what it says. So that was one. During a lot of the mission trips I've been on, have been like and seeing folks who've got nothing but the Lord, and their joy has been pretty transformative for me, as just like a reminder of like God's good whether or not, because I think it's easy to be in America and be like, yeah, of course God's good, like
Mhm.
I'm in the middle class, like all my needs are taken care of. But it's like, no, these people living in squalor like are clinging to the Lord more than I am. And so that's something like, in Belize or Costa Rica, they've been really cool. I think Costa Rica, seeing the ministry to men who are either in or have recently escaped prostitution,
Mhm.
um, that was something that was like, big moment for my faith. Um, and I also think Baltimore, when I heard Jay's testimony for the nth time, and the Lord just like, and I was just going through some personal stuff, and the Lord just gripped my heart, like your your problems are so temporary
Mm.
and so small, and I'm so much bigger than them, and it doesn't matter, like if this girl likes you or whatever it is, and so that was a really cool moment in my faith. And I also think going to college, because it's like, a ton of people just go to college and completely abandon their faith because it's inconvenient. Um, and I think going to college and knowing that, like, I wanted to make my faith something that wasn't just an afterthought. Like, I wanted it to be, like, an important part of my life. And for me, Campus Crusade was a super important part of my, I would say, just growth in college. And it wasn't constant growth, because there was a lot of times where I was just, like, kind of going through the motions. And
Mhm.
but to have something that I could, like as an outlet for ministry, as something that I was like, okay, this is like what I'm doing. Because my, I struggled to get plugged into a church until my sophomore year. And the one I did get it plugged into was pretty small, and most of the ministry was just kind of like, food outreaches and stuff like that. So, um, but I think in high school, when I actually started sharing the gospel with people. Like I shared with this cop in one of my IRSC classes and saw him come to faith, and um, that was the kind of stuff like, okay, like God can use me for more than just whatever, like meeting physical needs in the community. Like the Lord can use me to like change souls, and so and my friend Dario, getting to see him come
Mm.
come to Christ, and super cool things that were just like, they weren't like points where I was like about to abandon my faith, but they were just things that strengthened me.
Mm.
Um, the last one was during my senior year at FSU. Like, I had just been, because, all of our classes were online, and I had just been kind of praying, like, because we were challenged at Crew to find people to share the gospel with. And I was like, I have no non-Christian friends. Like, all
Mm.
my classes are online. And so I met this kid at a basketball court as he was leaving, and was like, got his name, prayed for him, and then forgot about it. And 3 weeks later, saw him on the court again and got to share the gospel with him. And then, 3 weeks later, got to baptize him in the Westcott Fountain. And yeah, it's like that stuff is the best part about being a Christian. Besides the whole eternal salvation and treasure in heaven, like getting to on earth see somebody's eternity change is the best thing ever. And that was one of the things that was like the breaking point of me choosing to pursue ministry. It was just like, I don't care like about the money. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I can do ministry and like make a living, I'm gonna do that, for as long as I can.
So if I'm tracing, I'm just trying to think from a parent listening of, okay, like you're an extremely unique young man, and your story is very unique. But when I think of what are some of the healthy things that you experienced with a family on mission that helped push you in the right way, it seems like first and foremost having a mom and dad that legitimately owned their faith, that they weren't different people inside the house than they were. There wasn't like a
Yeah.
public ministry persona that was different than how they operated and treated people in your home. And that also they gave you guys personal attention without making you the center of the world. But that also, their pursuit of things outside of the home weren't career advancement stuff for them, of like, you know what, I'm going to work late and work hard because then I can climb this ladder, but more for the sake of others. And then bringing you early on mission trips that are way outside your box and perspective. And I'm a huge fan of families getting to go on mission trips together. If you have any opportunity to do that, if you think of like a family vacation versus a family mission trip, I promise you at the end of the week, that mission trip is going to do far more for your family than what another week of filling yourself with recreation and relaxation is going to do. So the mission trip, the kind of weekly commitment of service of the church, the bringing people into your home, and it wasn't always homeless people.
Yeah.
You also housed college people and at different times, people that were in transition, and it was, instead of it robbing from you, it gave you some pretty incredible experiences. The getting involved in foster and adoption, but also the allowing you to have your own faith and your own experiences within the church body, where you're like, I got to take you on mission trips many times. And I remember that very night you were talking about with my testimony, and then laying on our air mattresses with cockroaches running around in Baltimore and talking through girl problems. And you never know which conversations are going to be the ones that stick. But I just hope those who are listening, they see that it's not one thing. You can't plan the like monument events of life.
Yeah.
Like it's steady reps. It's being consistent. I like how Eugene Peterson says it, a long obedience in the same direction. And yet your kids are still going to have times where they haven't yet owned it, and they're going to, have to dabble and pursue their own way. And those are terrifying and frustrating times as a mom and dad, but they have to own their faith, and you cannot craft how they own their faith. So you can create an environment, you can bring them along. But at some point it's the work of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
in their life.
absolutely. It's like you said, it's like the consistency, and like it was, and it's obviously, easy to say for me, like, oh, we never miss a Sunday because my dad's a pastor. But like that's one of the things, is like making your kids come to church with you,
Mhm.
and like even if they don't want to, putting them in the youth group, and like, or putting them with like the kids ministry, so that
Mhm.
they, because like those are like the relationships that, like, most of my groomsmen for my wedding are like guys from Covenant that I've grown up with, and like for like almost a decade. And it's those relationships that are lasting that like I've actually had time to plug into that have, kept me grounded a lot of the times. And even if your kids are like feel uncomfortable at first, put them in the ministries that, don't make them just sit with you in, the adult service because that's what they're comfortable with. Like put them in the ministries where there are kids their age that they can connect with and grow relationships with, because it's like so important.
Absolutely. Davis, thanks for joining us. Hey, let's all pray for Davis and his new bride, Lindsey. Let's do that right now. Father, I thank you for this time and just the encouragement of a young man that I've got to watch grow up for 13 years of his life and see the work of Jesus in. And now as he is a husband, and it's not that he just started a family. He has been a part of a family, and now that family is grown larger and is going to continue, God willing, for generations. Help him to be the man of God that makes it easy for his bride to follow Jesus, and that their home would be a lighthouse for those who need to see Jesus and a refuge for those who need to recover. And I pray that for all of us who are listening, that it would be an encouragement, listening to this, that it would be an encouragement that putting our family and putting our kids on mission is not something that makes them miss out, but actually makes them alive. And we pray your blessing on the New Price household as well as each of ours. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Davis, thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me.
Friend, if you're still listening all the way to the credits, then I hope that means that this was a particular blessing to you to hear this podcast. If so, I want to encourage you to share it with somebody else that you think might be helped by it. You're welcome to go to letsparentonpurpose.com to find out more information about show notes, about past issues, all kinds of things to help your family. And I do want to say that Let's Parent on Purpose is a user-supported podcast. And if you would like to be a part of that, you can go to letsparentonpurpose.com, learn how to be a supporter through Patreon or through a one-time gift. Thank you so much for listening. Again, share this with somebody that you know needs to hear it. Remember that parenting is a marathon, not a sprint. And we'll talk to you soon.